Hello, everyone. This is Insight by Vincent J. Um, Hopefully, everyone's doing well. We're coming up on Thanksgiving 2023. And I just thought to kind of make some content today that's going to speak more towards the concepts of efficiency and effectiveness and what it is and why you should care. And I'm speaking from this perspective of being a former performance auditor, looking at processes, internal processes, as well as procedures, management, staff performance, things of that nature. And so I'm wanting to just kind of give some insight there. It's something that I'm somewhat familiar with. I did this for about 4 years, so kind of just looking at processes and determining the efficiency and the effectiveness of their administration. And I bring this topic up at a time where I feel as though in the workforce, a lot has changed. We're in the post COVID era, and as I've called it many times, the post logic era. People aren't really doing things that make a whole lot of sense in terms of efficiency and effectiveness in their processes. And so I was wanting to just kind of bring the insight in that realm, in that you could understand a little bit what someone coming into your space, an outsider looking in, would see, and how they're going to be kind of evaluating you. So this video is kind of intended more just as to be informative, for, like, say, management, staff, even if you're like going to be audited in the near future, just kind of like what someone would be looking at and thinking about, in terms of basically determining whether you're efficient and effective. Sorry if I rambled on there, but I want to start off with this very simple illustration. People, policies, processes, and procedures. It's the 4 P's. Okay, so when you're being evaluated in an audit, or even if you're just trying to be efficient and effective at what you do, your first place to evaluate is going to be your people. So you see in the background, we have a vacant position, and you have 2 people around looking for someone. Well, step one is when you're making hiring decisions to choose the most qualified person possible for the position, not the most budget effective, and certainly not the most liked person, but who is the most qualified person for the position. That's going to take place at the HR level, of course, but there's going to be other factors that go into it. Obviously, the hiring manager is going to have some say in who gets that position. But it needs to be someone who has the basic qualifications and a proven track record in some way, shape, or form to be effective at the position. When I go into let's just say, a certain division or a department, and I start evaluating the people that I'm going to be looking at, like, let's just say it's an accounts payable function, something like that. You're auditing accounts payable. That may just be a portion, but there are audits that are just solely on one subject matter. So let's say that everyone in that position has zero qualifications for that position. Well, that's already kind of a control weakness. That's a deficiency in that you don't have qualified individuals doing the work. Now, let's say you have multiple people in this position in a short period of time. Well, that's also a bit of a red flag, a control weakness, because they don't possess the necessary competencies of, like, let's say, a tenured individual in that position who may have more experience, more knowledge of the policies, processes, and procedures, which are all important in and of themselves. But it starts with the people. If the people are not, you know, competent individuals, and so as an auditor, we're always evaluating competency. Competency of ourselves is, if we don't know the work, we shouldn't take the work. It's a two-way street. So competency is a two-way street. The person auditing as well as the auditee both need to possess certain competencies for whatever it is that they're doing. The policies in place, okay, that's going to be at the higher level. That's more of like the control environment. It's going to be your C-suite, your executives, your decision makers, your policy makers. Essentially, it's going to be those that are in the most power to set the expectations and policies. Those need to be in place, guys. If you don't have effective policies in place, you're really not doing yourself any favors, and you're certainly not being efficient and effective, because you can't hold someone accountable for something that they don't know that they're responsible to do. And this happens time and time again. Um, I would say one of the most default findings for an audit is that you didn't have policies and procedures for whatever it is that you may be auditing, and realize it's not just ticking off the boxes and just kind of doing a basic financial statement audit, which a lot of people are a little bit more familiar with. If you're looking at performance, you could be looking at anything from taking inventory to hiring to onboarding to IT to systems integration to systems design. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Construction. So, if you don't have policies and procedures in place that reflect the ideal of efficient and effective work, well, you're not going to be perceived as efficient and effective, because that's really what you have to rely on as management and as leadership. Processes I saved for the end. Guys, processes are so critical in the understanding of your staff, which is your people, as well as an outsider. So if processes aren't logical, they don't flow, they're highly manual, so that means they're going to be subject to a lot of human error. By default, that's a control weakness. If you can't explain the process in a very simple, subdued manner, and let's just say, a page or less if you're writing it down, or, a couple of sentences, um, it's going to be kind of hard for those people, number one, to pick up your processes, and also the going concern of that vacant position may become vacant again. Do you have processes in place that are going to stand the test of time and really be able to be grasped and ascertained by new employees? Or let's just say, the process breaks down and essentially no one really knows what the process was because of the fact that there was frequent turnover. And so, we had the great resignation, we had all of that stuff taking place during the pandemic. And really, a lot of this stuff feeds into efficiency and effectiveness, and that there's been so much churn that the people, the policies, the process, and procedures have all kind of, they're really broken in a lot of ways. I understand, that may have been long before the pandemic, but if you go into somewhere, and I don't really care what sector you're in, private or public, you're going to see control weaknesses, you're going to see deficiencies in all of these areas. And it plays to your advantage if you would start with the four P's as management, as a business owner, as a leader in general, or even as just a really good employee. If you understand the people, the policies, the process, and procedures, you, in essence, are the most valuable resource in the room. Okay. And you would be able to ensure that efficient and effective operations are taking place. So, problem solving. I'm going to just speak towards problem solving. And if you did not feel as though your processes, procedures, people, if you don't feel like those are effective right now, well, one of the things that you need to understand is it's all about having the right tools in the right hand. Okay. What do I mean by that? So, having the right tools in the right hand. If you are looking at something that could be easily automated or is in need of being centralized, chances are you're going to need what typically better software, certainly better processes, and competent personnel. People who know what's expected, people who can perform in a very uniform, concise fashion each and every time, and things won't change. Um, Granted, there's always exceptions where there would be some, particular instance where maybe it would make more sense to do a more manual process, but realize you're more inclined to make a mistake with manual processes. Can't emphasize that enough. So having the right tools in the right hand, are you taking a pick and shovel approach? Are you having the skid steer, doing the work? And I'm talking about doing the heavy lifting, because a lot of places, particularly now, are trying to make more with less. So if you're dealing with budgetary constraints, you want to make sure that you're empowering others around you, empowering your people with the right tools so that they can get their jobs done efficiently and effectively. You also need to understand that you have limitations. Okay, everyone does, every organization does. There may just not be people with the competencies. There may be, budgetary constraints, and you can't afford, a software that you may need that would make things easier. Those limitations are going to ultimately affect your efficiency and effectiveness. But it's reality. It's going to happen. Know how to compensate and mitigate for those limitations. That's going to be helping to essentially understand that there's mitigating controls in place. Um, and, someone would see that as being more efficient and effective. So, in the essence of time and being efficient and effective, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. If you have any questions or if you find this information helpful, feel free to reach out and just let me know if you'd like to see more content like this. This has been so far more of an accounting channel. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I appreciate your time today. Have a good one, and happy Thanksgiving.